Good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us live. We are here with Transformation Tuesday. I'm Amanda Beth, and I'm joined with my friend Andy Nam, and we are very busy folks because it's May, and I went to my daughter's graduation this month, and all the things that are going on, and it made me realize that your beliefs might be shaping your life, but are they expanding or are they limiting you? So I'm talking about the beliefs that we inherit, that we repeat. We might no longer need them, and we might need to graduate from them to keep going. So, like I said, this last weekend, my daughter, the baby, she graduated from college. And I tell you, I am about the proudest mom on the planet. Um, and I know she wasn't the only one graduating. The Coliseum was full. There's been high school graduations all over the place. And there's so many people right now celebrating that next moving part of their life. And it really got me thinking about graduating as being more than a ceremony. It's the
Mhm.
marker of growth, of completing one chapter, but needing to open up the door for the next one. So, Andy, where do you think you're graduating in your life right now?
Where I'm graduating, I honestly think I am just graduating my first chapter in life to see what's coming up next. It's almost like a lot of us worried about, like you said, all the beliefs we're ingrained to, and in the 50s, for my family and everyone that hit the 50s, including my parents, that's when all these conditions start coming up. For me, it's sort of like, wow, I'm sort of graduating on trying to get rid of that belief and see what exciting things are coming up, right? So yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of new things coming up, working with new coaches and stuff like that. So I'm sort of excited. I'm sort of excited.
Well, Andy, I know for a fact you've had far more graduations than you're giving yourself credit for. Um, but so many times we form these beliefs based on what we've experienced, what we are
Mhm.
taught, what we saw modeled, and what we heard repeated. And then, of course, I'm going to throw in my social media. Oh my gosh, it's what we're indoctrined to, and that we're getting used to experiencing life in the palm of our hands instead of going out and actually doing it. And and of course, seeing a couple of reels has also led me to this discussion today because I think that we often, well, I know we become what we believe, and
Mhm.
and what we believe we can become becomes the lens of what we see our life through. And you were talking about being able to say, all right, all these medical conditions have been coming up, and there's got to
Yep.
be more to life
Mhm.
than this. And it's like, no, I'm not listening to these. Both
Mhm.
of us have experienced horrific car wrecks that we weren't supposed to
Yeah,
do the
exactly.
things we are doing. Well, if we would have
Mhm.
believed those things, and when you're spelling belief or spell belief, there's always a lie in that word. You notice
Oh,
that?
I love that.
Yeah, that's how it's like be not I before E, but there's a lie in it. There's a
Mhm.
lie in the belief. So I'm not saying that all beliefs are bad. I'm just saying that
Right.
we need to stay curious enough to ask whether a belief is still true. Is it still helpful? Is it still aligned? Do you feel good when you believe that? So have you ever realized that something you believe wasn't actually yours, Andy?
Yeah, I got so many beliefs from, growing up that, and, from my coaches and teachers and stuff like that even now I'm struggling a little bit. And I love to talk about one belief I had in grade four from one of my track coaches. And, it was funny. I found this out many years later, like in grade seven, when I'm saying many years later. But basically, he says, you Chinese people, you just cannot pronounce the word F, right? And I was thinking, what's wrong with this guy? But it really stunted the way I thought, English was my second language. And it made me second guess on how I speak English. And for years, I was very quiet, especially speaking to him. And I never regained my respect from this teacher until grade 7 when I joined track and he was a track coach. And then I found out he married an Asian wife and his two children were Chinese, half Chinese. And that's why he was so hard on us, right? It's just that he was trying to improve me, but the way he said it, it really stunted my, my belief in learning a second language for years. And but it also inspired me. So, well, shit, I'm gonna show this guy, and so I think what I'm getting at is, the beliefs that people give you, it's really up to you if you take on that belief or you challenge that belief, right? And unfortunately, I took on that belief for a few years before I actually challenged them. And nowadays, I'm speaking live, I'm doing shows, whatever, and I'm not shy. I'm sure my English isn't perfect, but whatever, I own it.
Well, in English, the English language is one of the hardest languages, and even those of us who English is our first language, we don't always speak it properly. And I have a friend who's from the Ukraine, and we go shopping together or we do other things, and he is forever correcting how I pronounce things, and it's like,
Correct.
I get that Midwestern thing going on. And I know when I was a kid, I was told, because I would go visit in Ohio for the summers, and the play dates that my family would set up for me, and they'd say I had an accent. I'm like, oh, what's that? That's got to be horrible. Like I'm going to die by noon. But I think it's more of, the dialect. And I know even in Western medicine, there
Hmm.
are regional pronunciations of things.
Yes.
And so, but I also think that that's one of the biggest beliefs that we get, or
Hmm.
it's a proof of a belief that we take on from things that we are told. And one of the biggest things that I work with people on specifically is you're lazy.
Yes, that's a
If
big one.
you would just, you
Correct.
know? And so when we state something as a fixed belief, we can accidentally stop exploring it. So if you were to adopt that belief that Chinese can't say F's, then you would never keep challenging it.
Correct.
But you challenged the belief and got beyond that. So some other examples are like, I'm not good at all.
Hmm.
People like me don't get opportunities like that. I
Correct.
always mess things up. I'm too old to start over, Lord,
Yes,
Andy,
that's a
you
big
know me
one
or
for
not.
sure. Yep.
Yep. I am not enough. And it's just how life is.
Correct.
So when
Correct.
we keep telling ourselves things like that, of like, well, because it's always been done this way, I'm always going to do it this way, is
Hmm.
essentially what you're convincing yourself. So sometimes the belief is not truth. Sometimes it's just a thought that we practice long enough that it started feeling permanent.
Correct.
And so we put that spiritual switch on it. Then when we put a period after something too soon, we close that door to wonder. And so when your spiritual beliefs evolve and you have something that you're comfortable with, I just read, Mary posted something of a lady who was just so indoctrined in her faith and her belief and everything. And then when her daughter died, all of those beliefs that she thought she had crumbled and crashed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I would encourage everyone to look at some of the things that you believe, find if there's a lie in that for you, and how you want to challenge it, how you want to stay curious. Because if we close the door to wonder, we close the door to possibility and support, new ideas, new income, new relationships, new healing, and a new level of receiving. Can you imagine how many books I would have written if I would have believed that I'm dyslexic and I can't read and I can't write and I'll never be anything?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So always be curious, always have that wonder. Um, what do you think is a common belief that other people accept that should really be questioned more often, Andy?
I think The biggest one is sort of what you said. I'm too old for this. I'm too old to start over. Or it's because I am old. It's because I'm getting old. This is normal when I get old, right? Everyone is sort of blaming their age. And the funny thing is, people are living longer and longer. So if you're blaming your age early on in 50, oh my God, now you just for doing a self-fulfilling prophecy to suffer bad health for the next 30, 40 years, right? So
Yeah.
I think that is something that, we really need to reassess because like you said earlier, both me and you, we suffered pretty bad car accidents. And if we believed what our doctors or physiotherapists were telling us back then, oh, well, your life is going to suck as you get older. You got a really bad damage to your body. Things could only get worse. And I don't know about you, but I believed that lie for 20 years before I decided to do something about it. But how many people out there are still believing in, something that a specialist told them? But what people don't understand is like we're all individuals, right? What do you say may be true for two or three individuals you work with, but that doesn't mean it's true for you, right?
Well, and yesterday I just had a medical treatment, a Western medical treatment. Yes, I did
Hmm.
it for the migraines. Um,
Hmm.
and the the nurse practitioner's talking to me and saying, what do you have? Are you concerned about? I said, I stayed off the internet. I did not talk to
Hmm.
Dr. Google about this.
Okay.
I'm not listening to other people's experience. This is my experience. This is what, I want this to work for me. I want this to be the magic answer. And by not involving myself in all of those things,
I
um,
love what Chris put on there. I always believed that family was everything, and I think that's ingrained for both of us.
oh yeah, oh yeah. And
Right?
that
That's a
comes
huge
to,
one.
having that discernment where you have the discernment to understand that some of our beliefs are truly wisdom.
Hmm.
We've learned them, we've done the research, we've done, they are truly wisdom. Some beliefs are wounds wearing costumes of wisdoms, and I think that a lot of times what we pick up from our family, those end up being wounds, and I don't think that they're purposeful at
Hmm.
all. But I think that what we choose to believe of it, what we choose to repeat of it, is the part that really sticks with me in what we're talking about today, in outgrowing those beliefs. If
Yes.
you believed it as a child and understand that you can have wisdom and the things that you can tell, if it's like a, oh, what am I trying? Old wise tale versus being wisdom. Is it something you're carrying because it was handed to you and you just didn't
Yes.
know what to do with it? Or is it wisdom? Because beliefs that come from wisdom are going to feel grounded. They're going to feel
Hmm.
steady. They're going to feel clear. They will protect you without being fear based. If
Hmm.
you're afraid of something, that's probably not coming from your wisdom. And
Very
it
true.
leaves you open to more beliefs. And then the things that are limiting, that is not genuine wisdom,
Hmm.
is the things that make you feel contracted. So when you think about them, you have that heaviness in your chest and feel where it is in your body. Maybe you get a headache or a migraine. Um, Things that feel like they're final. If you don't do it this way, that's the end. Or
Correct.
bring you fear and shame. Um, and it really closes the possibility when you have a limiting belief about it.
Hmm.
So your wisdom side is going to say, I need more information before I decide. The limiting belief is going to say, I can't do that. Who
Yeah.
had more fun? You know, to say I can't do that means you're not even going to try.
Exactly.
Where if you're going to learn about it, you're going to do your best. You're going to put your best foot forward. No one says you have to do it perfectly. You just need to do it.
I
So,
love
and
it.
your wisdom's going to speak to those boundaries. Your limiting belief says nobody ever supports me. Your wisdom's going to say, I can do this. I'm going to
Hmm.
do it. I don't need the help of other people necessarily. When you get going down the road and you're looking back at the people that were holding you back, then you know you've really done something, you know?
That is so true. That
Yeah.
is so true.
And that's in all aspects of your life. If it's family, if it's coworkers, if it's friends, I talk a lot about your circle changing as you
Hmm.
make improvements, as you grow, your
Correct.
circle changes. Your kindergarten best friend likely isn't your best friend now, not because you hate each other, but you've grown. You've got different ideas about life.
Hmm.
So when you have something come up, is this protecting my growth or is it protecting my fear? Kind of a way to help discern that. So,
Correct.
how do you personally feel that, Andy, the difference between wisdom and fear in your body? Where do you think that comes up for you?
For me, fear. I'll be honest. I face fears all the time, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think the fear for everything always seems to come central from my heart, right? Like from fear, and then but then also wisdom seems to bounce between the two. It's almost like it's coming from the brain, but it bounces the heart, and then it's like, well, is this really true? Like, it's almost fighting each other sometimes, right? Because your brain is always the warning systems, but the heart, I think, is what really tells you what is legit or not, right? So, it's
Mhm.
like when you watch a scary movie, oh my God, that's so scary. Like you feel the beating of your heart, right? But at the same time, is like, when you get that genuine wisdom, you also have that excitement of your heart too. So I think a lot of it for me and for a lot of people, it is heart centric. And a lot of people, they don't got that balance. They're not heart centric, right? They're always just thinking with the brain.
Yeah,
And
that logic can really set us apart. And then there was a
yeah,
poem I
it can
talked
really
about a
mess you
couple.
up,
Yeah, that poem I talked about a couple weeks ago. Then going down to your gut, a lot of people
Yeah,
will feel it in their stomach, and the gut
yeah,
says
right.
go to your
So
lungs and just breathe.
yeah, right.
You
So
know,
everyone is slightly different in that aspect. But yeah, I think nowadays, um, when you get that fear, it's just like it's sort of like what you said is, I just sort of question it. Is this a real fear? Is this really what's the worst that's going to happen if I move forward on something to challenge on something I want to do? And it's one of our coaches, stretch, rich or die. Is like, and is this just a stretch, or am I going to die doing this? And most of the time, it's well, gee, okay, someone's going to say you're stupid, but what are the rewards if I reach that little risk, right? And most of the times, that risk is what the reward from that risk is just tremendous, right? And I think for most of us, on a journey for health, on a journey for personal development, taking that step out of your comfort zone makes a very big step in changing your life and the group of people that you start hanging around with, you circle of people that, like you were talking earlier.
yeah, yeah. Your circles definitely change. So we think back to the graduates.
Hmm.
Yeah, these graduates are stepping across the stage. They get their, gosh, there were so many. I think they had 2 seconds to hold up their, yeah, I did it, and they're off the stage. But they're stepping into that unknown. They don't have any proof of
Hmm.
every step ahead of them. They're moving forward because the growth that they have done, has
Correct.
prepared them to continue growing in this next chapter. And the commencement address, it was awesome. I really appreciate it. I wish I'd recorded it because she talked about, growing up in Iowa and
Hmm.
the challenges and each one and coming together with community to get through the next hurdle and the next hurdle and some of the biggest decisions and the biggest graduating from one task to the next was sometimes stepping down
Hmm.
to grow bigger and to do better things. And I think that fear of the unknown is one of those things that I think we all have and we talk about, but I also think that's tied to a belief. It's
Correct.
tied to the belief that you got to know information before you can step forward.
Correct.
I've some of the best decisions I've made in my life have appeared spontaneous to everyone else, where I take a leap of faith and I do what I know in my heart I
Who's
need
right?
to do.
Yes. Mm.
you know, Starting the graphics business, starting the flotation pod, becoming a spiritual healer. All
Hmm.
of those things were tremendous leaps of faith,
Correct.
um, as it is. So just don't forget that where you're feeling stuck, it could be in money, relationships, health, careers, intuition, confidence, visibility, or just what is the next step.
Hmm.
So ask yourself those questions. What do you currently believe about it? Where did you learn that belief? Is it mine or is it somebody else's?
Hmm.
And does it expand me or limit me? If I keep thinking this, am I going to gain?
Correct.
Or if I keep thinking this, will I stay small? And
Hmm.
so being able to have those doors opened for you, and what would curiosity say? If you ask your curiosity, and I talk about that all the time, staying curious in life rather than just accepting it.
I love
And
that. That's one of the things I keep telling myself and for friends and, clients is like, for me, is like what Lil Andy say, right? Because, when you're younger, there are no limits, right? You think you can rule the world, you can do anything, right? And I think, like you said, our beliefs get knocked down as we getting older by everything around us that you start losing the confidence, you start losing the curiosity. So I love that.
yeah, because curiosity doesn't require you to have the answer.
Hmm.
It requires you to open the door so
Correct.
that answers can arrive.
Exactly.
So, gosh, where's some theta on this? The theta is that you have to know everything to be safe. That you can only do things when you're certain. That always having to know what the next step is, and that's you know you need to give yourself permission to outgrow those old identities. And you don't have to prove to yourself that you've earned the opportunity to
Hmm.
challenge your own self. So much of this comes back to the work that we do for ourselves. And sometimes you're going to feel lost in there, but you don't have to. So let's download that we know how to stay curious and grounded, that we know how to grow safe beyond our old limits. We can honor what we've learned and still keep expanding. That we know the difference between wisdom and fear. We're allowed to question what no longer feels true in our lives. And that we can be open without being unanchored. So just because you're being open doesn't mean you're just flying crazy. You're still grounded, you know? So if you like those downloads, just say yes out loud. And we'll do the forgiveness work that allowed us to keep believing and forgive those people who gave us beliefs that just no longer serve us. Like that? Say
Yes.
yes out loud. Okay. Ooh, there's a lot of resistance there. So if you're catching us in the download, just say yes out loud and accept that energetic work that's there. So our angel card this week is the Angel of Transition. There, thank you, Andy. Um, she says, the integrity of my being, I experience and express the dance of life. The dance of polarities is constant in our lives, to give and to receive, to laugh and cry, to be or not to be, positive and negative. In that way, we each carry within a colorful spectrum of energies. Accepting and expressing those aspects as they are is to live with conscious integrity, which means that we are channels for the living expression of our unified spirit.
Wow.
So
That one's pretty deep.
that one's really, really deep. Yeah, we may post that in the comment section too, because it connects to all the things we've been doing,
Hmm.
and just know that when you have that integrity, that word also reminds me of authenticity, which is maybe we need to go back to the word integrity. So thank you so much for joining us today, taking this half hour out of your very busy day and very busy schedule. I appreciate you. You can follow me at amandabethhealing.com /Linktree will take you to the socials. and to the websites. Um, so today, as we celebrate all the graduates, I invite you to look at your own life and what you're ready to learn and grow and expand beyond. What is behind that next door as you close this chapter and go into the next one. Um, and let's see, we'll be back next week, 11:30 Central Time on Tuesday for Transformation Tuesdays. This Friday, I will be in Mount Pleasant signing books and doing readings. So, be pop-up book signing and reading at Holistic Gypsies. You can follow that on Facebook as well. And tonight, Andy, Chronic Health Collective, Bloom
Yes.
Beyond, Reclaim Joy and
We
Expand.
have. Hold on, let's see if I can get that on there. Yes, I'm actually going to be on the panel tonight. I'm actually quite excited. I'm joined with Jessica Hammock and Kelly Fox, part of the Fearless Entrepreneurs, uh, Fearless Generations, and we're talking about blooming. Like blooming beyond fear, beyond and reclaiming joy and expanding, right? So it was really cool because like what you were talking about earlier today is expanding into the fear, challenging beliefs. And it actually sort of rose into what we're going to be talking about tonight. So it's funny how the energies, everything sort of aligns and our thoughts are aligned together. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. So it's going to be on tonight on e360tv.com at 7 p.m. CST on the Vitality TV network. And of course, we stream it on Facebook, on YouTube channel and LinkedIn also.
All the platforms. Well,
Yes.
thank you again, Andy. Thanks for joining me. It makes these go along a lot smoother when I have someone to banter with.
No,
So
it's
thanks for
always so
doing this.
fun joining you Tuesday. All right.
Alrighty, until next week, guys. Bye bye.